I am so blessed. I'm about to have a conversation with Kimberly Genau, the founder of Alabaster House. Since 1998, she's been ministering on Capitol Hill with her husband there to members of Congress, spouses. The work that Alabaster House does is so critical, as these members need a safe space of people that they can believe love them, cherish them, will nurture their souls. And we just feel a kindred spirit with this ministry as we are helping Christians connect with their elected officials, praying for them, voting in every election, engaging. It's time for us to be real with these members of Congress, and Kimberly is going to show you how. So stick around for this episode. Here at Christians Engage, we are on a quest to see every American Christian take stewardship of their life, their nation, and this generation. Can you imagine a world where every Christian in this country did three simple things? Pray, vote, and engage. And what if we did those ongoing? It would totally shift our nation. That's what we're doing here at Christians Engage. Over the last 5 years, we've built a standing army of Christians that are saying, I want to pray, vote, and engage ongoing and be leaders in my community. We're just getting started, folks. Here at Conversations with Christians Engage, join us every week as we take you in depth in interviews with government officials, ministry leaders, subject leader experts to awaken and empower you to do those three things ongoing. I'm Bunni Pounds. I'm the president and founder of Christians Engaged. I spent 16 years in political consulting working for members of Congress and other candidates before starting this ministry. And my co-host, Ben Quine, our biblical worldview expert and our vice president. Come on a journey with us every week. We're here to help you pray, vote, and engage. Hey guys, I'm here with Kimberly Genau, the founder with her husband Randy of Alabaster House in Washington, D.C. I have been looking forward to this conversation for a long time, Kimberly. I know we have a lot to talk about because you've walked with members of Congress for years, as I have, and there is so much ministry to be done in Washington, D.C. with our government leaders. So let's just go. I'm so happy to be with you, friend.
I love it. Thank you, Bunny, for having me on. It's just a privilege.
It's a blessing. So you guys moved, or you lived in the Washington, D.C. area and built Alabaster House. Can you tell us about the beginnings of that?
Sure. Well, the first beginning is I was born in Washington, D.C., so I'm one of your rare local natives. My dad played for the Washington Redskins at the time. So he played in the old RFK Stadium. So that's how both my sister and I were born in D.C. And so, of course, we're there. So we feel like, the city is so precious and absolutely love it. There's so much there in the realm of government to be done. And so what really happened early on, I was hired by Dr. D. James Kennedy and his ministry as one of the first Capitol Hill liaisons right there as the work was getting started, reaching out to members and staff. And of course, then, as a great foundation, later founded Alabaster House, also a 501c3 nonprofit, and serving as a spiritual resource to elected leaders and their families. So we're not just there on Capitol Hill, we're also working in the three branches of government and also governors and first spouses. So it's a real privilege to help bring alongside and encourage our leaders that need it the most.
So what does that look like day to day? That's a big vision and mission to minister to elected officials. And believe me, I know they need it. They get more and more isolated as they stay in D.C. I've seen members that had a great community of faith friends around them. And then, 5 years down the road, they have no relationships outside of their staff and different people. So what does that look like day to day?
Yeah, I think our first premise is just simply stating that we believe a healthy faith, a healthy family will produce healthy decisions on behalf of our nation. So those are really what are some things that we hone in on. Our three main points are confidential prayer, biblical devotions, and friendship. And so you talked about just often being, isolated. And so coming in on that level where you're able to help support their marriages, give them opportunities, that they can build into their family families is just going to reap exponential rewards. So there are specific programs that we have designed to actually benefit the leaders. So
Wow.
every year we host bipartisan Capitol Christmas coffee. So we're bringing together leaders, of course, that started back in 2015 when Leader McCarthy was running for the speakership. And so bringing together different folks that were often at odds, being there for over 26 years now, we've been able to cultivate some of those relationships that really can make a difference. So day to day, of course it's different, right? It depends. But I think from a programmatic standpoint, we have the coffees, we have the retreats that we do. We host a Capitol Spouses Retreat out at our property. So we're, out on 10 acres. So you feel like you're a world away, but it's very close to DC, which is a great benefit so that they can actually come out. We also host a marriage retreat and Capitol Spouses Retreat. So those are the two retreats that we do. And there's often just gatherings, as you know, on Capitol Hill. So
Yeah.
we spend a lot of our time just right there, either in the offices. We host chapels on Capitol Hill frequently, as well as just meeting in the members' offices or in their homes there. So a lot of variety for sure.
Well, I know I've talked to several members, spouses that have really been blessed. Tracy Self,
Oh,
Congressman Keith Self's wife,
yeah.
has been very blessed by your program. What do you find? Do they feel free to talk among each other? I mean, it is like a sacred trust, right? When you're in the public eye, it is very difficult. I remember when I was running for Congress, just feeling like people were just looking at me all the
Right.
time. Like, can I be my authentic self? And I can only imagine taking office and how that even increases their introspection and their worry about that. How does that set them free to be together?
Right.
And then to have safe space, safe people that they can trust that's going to save those confidences.
Right. I think one of the things that we're specifically known for is a refuge. Congressman Barry Loudermilk from Georgia had just said there's so much that you need to really get out of this political rat race that you're in, but places like Alabaster House provide that level of refuge,
It's
and
good.
so it really is, again, kind of honing in on that confidential prayer, the safe place where they're not there for their job or what they do, but just as individuals. And that's often what we commonly just forget, right? We often throw darts at it's a political party, it's the opposition, and so we forget that they are people with real problems. Maybe they have kids, marriages, all this type of stuff. That they're actually people like you and I that have real needs,
Yeah.
real prayer requests, and so that's really a benefit of Alabaster House coming alongside, where they can just relax and be in that safe place.
That's so good. I know when I was a staffer, and one of my motivations is to encourage Christian young people to become staffers and consultants, because we underestimate the value of those safe people that have a biblical worldview, that can study policy and look at it from a biblical framework to consult those members of Congress and those elected officials, because many times they depend on their staff. It's these young people, right, that are really running the country in a lot of ways.
100%. The 20 something. So,
Yeah, and it's
yeah.
amazing the kind of influence they can have. But I remember, I became like a counselor in chief to my former boss. We would be driving back from East Texas and having a fundraiser, and I'm driving him back, and something's happened with one of the kids. I'm talking him through that, or something's happening in leadership. But
Right.
just the fact that they can talk to somebody is critical. How do we build an atmosphere? Because I know Washington is so partisan. Everybody's attacking people on Twitter, on X. It's not like it used to be in the old days where all the members got together, they had dinner and coffees. Now they get on the planes and they're instantly back in their districts and with their families. How have you tried to cultivate even relationships across party lines, or helping them navigate some of
Right.
those landmines and
I think
pits?
just one historic moment. Really, we tell these really candid stories, but we were with a particular member, and at the time, this was many years ago, but we would have said, oh, he was as old as the furniture, that had been up there. He could have told you so many historic stories. But, what he was suggesting, he said exactly what you said, which was, fight all day, then go out for dinner at night, right? You're cordial, you have these collegial relationships. And we were trying to really dig in and say, what changed? And he really was citing actually like C-SPAN and just the ability to have those news bites.
The
actually
24/7 news cycle.
Yeah, to go out and now we stop talking to one another and we're really, pandering for the camera and to get that sound bite. And so that was kind of a breakdown of those relationships historically over time. So one of the things that we started to do was to actually break bread together, is just invite different members together collectively to connect, because it sure is a lot harder to tear them down when you've been in their home, maybe seen some of their family photos and this type of thing. And I think that is often a bridge to understanding, is getting to know them personally outside of the political arena. And that, that particular member had said to us, this is one of the best nights I've had in my life. And I thought, does this guy get out? I mean,
obviously not.
Well, either that or he really meant what he said.
Yeah,
right?
no,
That,
it's very
it was
sincere.
Really connection, a big connection for him. And it felt like days of old, right?
Yeah.
So that can be a very powerful thing. So how do you strategically bring people together? It's not easy, but you can develop those that are willing to connect and have a heart to do so. And it's been also, again, with our Capital Christmas coffee that we do every year, strategically inviting both Democrats and Republicans to that event to be brought together. So
yeah, my former boss, Jeb Henserling, chaired financial services, and he used to go out every week for lunch with Maxine Waters, his vice chairwoman, on the committee. And she always orders tomato soup every single week, and we argue about everything, and then we finally reach something we can work with together.
Tomato soup, right?
Yeah. It's a process, and it's in realizing that these members are real people, which leads me to my next point I want to talk to you about, which is prayer.
Yes.
Our emphasis is Christians praying for government and the nation, voting in every election, and starting to engage as leaders in somewhere in our communities, or doing something. Prayer has to be the beginning, and we really emphasize through our Monday prayer, look up your member of Congress and pray for them by name, pray for their spouse, pray for their kids, whether it's your state rep or your county commissioner, or whatever we're doing, praying for that week. But then also realizing that we can pray for these elected officials when we're there in person with them without acting weird and religious. There's ways to do it. Don't lay your hands on them without asking their permission, strange things like that. But how do you find individual Christians can really make a difference in a member's life by praying for them?
Well, I would suggest the listeners today could visit our website at alabasterhouse.org. We have an email update that we send out, and it's targeting that very thing, prayer. And so a lot of times people have a heart to pray when there's special events going on, national news, other things like this, and they can actually be informed. So if you sign up for that, share your email with us, then we send that out every time we have a ministry event, ministry opportunities, future invitations that we do. It's a great way to stay connected. So now we're able to not only just pray, but pray with insight. And I also want to share that a lot of times people will pray, oh, God, save these corrupt criminals, right? So it's not quite hitting maybe the James 5, right? The effective, fervent prayer of the righteous availeth much. So I'm kind of looking for those targeted bullseyes where we can say, okay, there's an outreach happening, or there's a coffee happening, or there's a retreat happening, where we can have targeted prayer that is really going to help benefit those leaders directly. And then in turn, that will actually benefit us, right, as a nation, because they are going to come out of that healthy faith, healthy family, healthy decisions on behalf of the nation.
And people that are many times antithetically against some of our biblical values, I've seen God reach them and touch their heart in deep ways. I have an encounter in my book with Beto O'Rourke, where God gave me a vision about standing in front of a Beto who's a congressman, was an opposite party than I was, or what I worked in for years and years. But the Lord showed me that he was wanting to touch him and his wife and his family, and that he saw his servant heart towards people, and really just instructed me to tell him, hey, God wants you to know him. He wants you to know his word more. But what that encounter, that vision that I had, actually turned into a divine encounter with Beto, and we texted for about a year and a half after that. What it did is it changed my heart, really, to see people the way God sees people.
Sure.
And I think when we're looking at our government officials, whether it's local government, and especially local government, because those people are going to our grocery stores with us, right? I mean, they're in our business, in our life. And sometimes we create these ideas that these are enemies, like these are people that are against what I need to happen. And we're not really seeing them with the eyes of Christ, of how he wants to work in their life. So being a righteous ambassador, even in that government space, is so important. You've got a lot of events that you do, Kimberly, because your heart is to connect people with the members where they can really make a difference. Tell us about your event in September that you're doing.
Right. It's we're hosting a leadership summit. We kicked off our very first one on 9/11, and
Wow.
the night before, crazily enough, literally on the 9/11, I was there in a Bible study, praying. We've never had a meeting like this since or after, with a number of different leaders, and we started praying for the protection of literally the nation. And it was just out of this spontaneous prayer that took place there, over the Capitol, the White House, wisdom for the president, and all these things. And the group that was with me on the 10th, many of which were in the U.S. Capitol, running out of that
Wow.
the night, literally the following morning on 9/11, as those planes were actually targeted to the U.S. Capitol. And so they're like, what happened? And so I think for us, we find ourselves often unknown, right, and unplanned, but often at intersections where God will gather, he'll call, there'll be prayer that'll be instituted. You mentioned some of the different leaders. We invited Mike Johnson to come at another event that we hosted there in the Capitol. And this was, prior to anyone even knowing who he was, right?
Yeah.
When he,
It was a miracle he became speaker. Yeah.
Right. And so he gave his remarks, and we asked, and it was all, a public setting. And so, hey, we'd love to pray for you at the end. And he said, absolutely. So I prayed for him, and I thought, did I eat the pepperoni pizza or not? Did you hear from God, or was that just, but I really prayed for like a double anointing of leadership over his life. And so we find ourselves at these crossroads, really, where I think God is doing something, and we're partnering, as you mentioned, in prayer. So the next event that we have coming up is a leadership summit, which will be hosted on Capitol Hill, and opportunity for our participants to come inside to appreciate our founding, see the rotunda, some of the amazing things in there, and then of course, some of the big takeaways were actually roundtables that we created with members of Congress sitting at a table with our participants. So as you know, most of them come to the lectern, the podium, they'll give a speech. Maybe you ask a Q&A, maybe get called on, but we're actually sitting them down with our participants. And so they can ask questions like, if you're a leader, you can be asking what's happening economically, legislatively, culturally, that might impact either my business as an executive or my ministry, right, as we're shepherding and leading, because frankly, those were the two industries, if you will, that were shut down during crisis. And so our theme is leading in times of crisis. And so these are ways that we can help equip leaders to be basically educated and hopefully see around the corner. We had COVID and the pandemic, and it was just, we were all running defense, right? We did kick off, pun on words, with an NFL panel, and we unpacked leadership from the gridiron, the perseverance angle of leadership, right? The blood, sweat, and tears of it all, and obstacles that we overcome. So you had a lot of ways that you could benefit by coming to the Leadership Summit. different angles of leadership that you're able to really connect with. And it's an investment, in yourself and also in your team. So I would just say to our audience, especially if you're an executive, it'd be amazing. If you're on that top tier level, a great opportunity. Maybe you're an up and coming leader and you're like, hey, I want to really hone that in my life. That's also a great opportunity. We had young people there as well. And obviously, members of Congress really enjoy chatting it up with the young people. They're like, yay, I get to invest in this generation. So I think wherever you are, it's a great opportunity. You can find more about us, and the Leadership Summit at our website at alabasterhouse.org.
And what's the dates on that again?
So can't forget it, 9/11. That's why I shared that story a little bit, just kind of going, wow, there's something there. And the night before. So we open on the 10th that evening. And then the second day will be right there on Capitol Hill for the morning throughout the afternoon.
Okay. So check out that event at alabasterhouse.org.
Right. Alabasterhouse.org. And then another thing we're launching in 2025, because we got such great reviews on the summit, and they basically said like our roundtables were gold. So they loved the connection. I frankly couldn't get one of the members of Congress to leave. I told him, I was like, what time do you, I told the staff, what time do you need him out of here? And they're like, told me the time. It's like, oh, I shouldn't have stepped into that window, because I was like, hey, okay, we're ready to go. And he was just having such a great connection,
it's a blessing.
sharing. Yeah. And that's that safe place, really, where a lot of things, it's just so genuine. We had one member that brought his notes that the staff had prepared, talking points. He folded those up, put them in his jacket, was like, okay, I'm here basically to share in earnest. And that was really powerful. So we're creating these Capitol roundtables. And so it'll just be a single day from like 11 to 3. And we're going to do 5 of those. And these ones we're really taking on some of the things that we think are going to be in the news cycle, if you will, coming up. So it could be finance, markets, banking as one, foreign affairs, veteran affairs. We have small business, education, and the workforce. So those are just a couple of themes where we want to really bring in key executives and ministry leaders. So I would invite your audience to that as well. And you can email us at info@Alabaster House.
That's so good.
More direct.
So, Kimberly, thank you for that. I had a similar experience where Speaker Mike Johnson, before he was Speaker, was planning on joining our National Advisory Board for Christians Engaged. And we had him come speak to us when our team came to D.C. And I prayed over him that he would be in a position to disciple people in a greater way of his colleagues.
Right.
And a few months later, he's Speaker, right? We had no idea.
Right.
So I think that's just a confirmation that God was speaking through prayer to many people. Actually, I've heard many stories about how God was speaking to people about the journey that he was going to go on that we didn't even know at the time. And then for those of y'all who do want to go to DC for longer periods too, we are having a trip in October. And so we'd love for you to join us as well for that as we take 50 people to DC. But anyway, it is so blessing to have you, Kimberly. Kimberly Genau, with Alabaster House. Connect with her. Thank you, Kimberly, for being faithful to speak into the members' lives and be there for their families. This is such a critical mission, and just so blessed to know you, sister.
So great to have been on the show, and it's been an amazing conversation today. And we look forward to just inviting the listeners to learn a little bit more. You can also support, of course, our work at alabasterhouse.org. So you might think, hey, I can't go, but maybe I want to support. Maybe I want to sow a seed and know that it's going to actually be used that could. We always say that one member literally impacts millions, through their reach. So to the extent that Alabaster House can be a support to those members and those families, it's like, wow, that impact is exponential. So we'd love your support. 501c3, everything's tax deductible, and you can find that give link right on our website, again, at alabasterhouse.org. So thank you.
Thank you, Bunni. Thank you, Kimberly.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us for this incredible program today. We are so happy to be in your life. Have you shared this? Have you subscribed? Have you reviewed our podcast? Please share this with other people and help us get the word out that Christians are getting empowered around this nation. Step 1 to join Christians Engaged is take our pledge to pray, vote, and engage on our website at christiansengage.org. Every week, we'll teach you how to pray for government. We will send voting reminders around every election, and we'll help you engage more for America. Step 2, take one of our classes. Have you taken our On-Ramp to Civic Engagement or Biblical Worldview or the Leadership of Nehemiah or Biblical Conduct? We have so many classes, including a full campaign school that you can plug into right now on our classes page. Step 3, hey, it's time to get involved in campaigns, advocacy, registering more Christian voters, activating your church. Every Christian needs to get off the sidelines and make a difference. We are here to mentor you into your place of leadership. That's what we do every day at Christians Engage. So reach out to us for help in any of those areas. And lastly, everybody listening to me right now can help fund a movement of millions of Christians that will pray, vote, and engage ongoing. We're supported by people just like you that every month or every year invest in this ministry, their hard-earned dollars, their treasure, their heart. We thank you so much. Please be a part and give at christiansengage.org. Thank you so much to our partners at The Stream. Thanks for sharing this podcast every week. We so appreciate you. Also, Edify app with Christian Post. Thank you for having us part of your podcast ministries. Christians Engage is a ministry of Family Policy Alliance Foundation, and together around the country, we are mobilizing Christians to pray, vote, and engage. We love you. We'll see you back next week.